this is a movie about a robbery, but the robbery's not in the front. I figured, and also, there's another movie out there. There's some other Ocean's 11 version of this robbery that I'm not interested in. Like, our experiment was how little of the heist movie could we have in the foreground and get away with it? Mm-hmm. How much can we focus on what was interesting to me, which was the characters and relationships of these unusual, strangely wise, but kind of weird people from Boston.
Yeah. Whenever I have people as accomplished as either of you, because you've both been doing this for a while, I love going back to the beginning and just asking, what was your first job in this business? Did you start off as a PA on sets, or the first time you felt you could call yourself an actor, whether you were paid for it or not?
Go ahead.
I mean, so the answer quickly is sure. I started off as an actor. Who wouldn't? It was the easiest job, the one with the least resistance. You could kind of be by yourself. So that's what I did. Yeah.
What was your first acting role professionally?
Well, I did it in high school and college, and on to and professionally, I worked with Norman Mailer in an adaptation of his book Why Are We in Vietnam? I went to Lincoln Center, so I was still in college.
You did that in college?
Well, I was in college, and I went to Lincoln Center with Jules Irving, and people might remember these names who are New Yorkers, and Lincoln Center, of course, we know. And yeah, I got a really big role in a kind of a interesting way to work with Norman. We worked on it for over a year and a half. And Avedon took my picture and all that stuff. It was fun.
That is so cool.
Yeah.
I feel bad making Eric follow that.
I know.
Huh?
I should have gone first.
Yeah, and that's where I met Eric. We met,
Yeah. Norman Mailer took me under his wing many years and taught me how to write.
It was a large wing.
And he punched me.
Yeah, that's how I met Norman, too. He did like to punch. He punched me in the stomach, and I used to train as a boxer with my grandfather, who was from South Boston, like I mentioned in the movie. And so I told him, if you do that again, I'm going to knock you out. And then he said, okay, you're hired. That's how I got my job, yeah.
Punched you in the stomach. That's how Houdini died.
Houdini, yeah, probably.
Don't punch people in the stomach. That can kill people.
Well, I didn't know that. If I knew that, I wish you were around then. You could have told me. Don't say that.
Eric, for you, what was your first entree into this business?
I think I was an extra on a terrible TV show, and I remember there were multiple takes, and they couldn't figure out there was a noise that was bothering everybody, and it was my shoes.
Oh.
And because I was walking down these stairs, and I just realized, okay, the camera's not my friend. I need to be on the other side of the camera.
It's amazing. Well, you have done a lot of, you've been a writer and you've made so many things, but it's very hard for me to believe that this is your feature directorial debut. Not just because it's good, but because it's so assured and accomplished. Had you been looking for a feature to direct for a while, and what was it about this story that told you it was time?
Yeah, I had been. I'd been a writer for a long, long time, and I at one point realized that it's not a writer's medium. It's actually a director's medium, and it took me a while to come around to that. And once I realized that, okay, that's what I should be doing. And I saved up for many years, and I was looking for a story, and I wanted to do something in Boston because I know it well. And I knew where to find all these locations. And you and I were talking about independent films and what independent film really is. And, it's when you have very little budget and you do a lot with it. Mm-hmm. And that's what I felt like I could do and make out of this story. And I used to go to the Gardner Museum when I was a kid. Yeah. So I kind of knew it well enough that I thought this would be a good start.
Do you remember when this heist happened?
Yeah, March 18th, 1990. And I remember going to the Gardner, and I'm sure Paul does too, and seeing these paintings before they were stolen.
You're kidding. So you've by the way, they're out there now. I mean, not the actual ones, wink, wink, but at least one replica.
There's a Rembrandt in the lobby, yes.
And nobody's watching it right now, so make your move. Paul, I just learned you're from Boston too. I didn't realize
Yes, I'm
this.
from Boston.
But that's not how the two of you met.
Well, yeah, we met in Boston, but we met for this picture, yeah.
Oh wow! Is there just a thing when Boston people get together? You have a.
We have a lobster roll.
So how did this project, find its way to you, and what specifically interested you in the role of Marty?
Well, those are like three questions, and I appreciate you asking them all together, Chris. But I'll take them one at a time. I mean, the role of Marty is because of Eric's writing, and it was presented to me by a friend of mine that Eric has been working with, who I've known for 50 years and worked in the theater with and in movies, and. So we got together and thought this might be a good fit, and had a meeting a couple of times. And I read the script, and I thought this is something I could do and participate in, and hopefully bring something to it. And from there we just we have to kind of make sure we trusted and liked each other, and we did that pretty well. And then the whole experience, as we were talking about independent film, was one of trust and one of really enjoying each other's company. I mean, the whole group. I mean, from everyone, which is really kind of unique.
Yeah.
We weren't so large that you couldn't have this overwhelming one gestalt, one kind of feeling, one enthusiasm, one kind of purpose, sense of purpose. So we all had it, and we had it fairly equally. There wasn't a big hierarchy of in our independent search for this story. And so we uncovered it and had a lot of fun, and some of it shows up in the picture.
It's interesting because you've literally played everything in your career, but recently you've really specialized in authority figures. A lot of generals, an archbishop, a lot of cops. Was it fun to be on the other side of the law with this part?
Oh, I've been on the other side of the law with other
long.
roles, but no, I mean, I know what you mean. Well, it seems that we have an anti-hero, and then we have to have everyone else in position to kind of present that the anti-hero is the anti-hero. So oftentimes in character roles, you're playing parts to just make that more resounding, the anti-hero kind of role that's usually the lead role. In this one, it's really great to me to play the anti-hero,
Yeah.
as it were, the guy who was the kind of knowledgeable thief of some kind of centeredness, even though it's slightly askew. But he does come from a place where he's purposeful and knows who he is and what he wants and why. And I think that was, even though it goes against all convention, I felt that was the most intriguing part of the role. So it was good to play it, that I didn't have to play the cop who comes
Yeah.
in the van and tells the story about the guy who got the bullet in his head. I mean, that was tough to do. I admire the other character actors more in movies now, having when they're really just
Yeah.
doing it in support of me in my role. I admire everyone who did a part in this movie, the drug dealer, everybody, It's great, that they played, everyone did it with the same enthusiasm. And that was really kind of what was special.
And Eric, I'm assuming you're not a master criminal or art thief. You don't have any sort of a background in that. Can you talk about how you captured this specific world so well as a writer?
Well, it's not as a writer. It's watching actors do it. That's
Really?
again. And this is part of the answer of your earlier question. This is why I went into this. Is because I want to. This is what I love doing, is playing with actors and giving them a runway. Like a great actor like Paul, you give him a nice long runway, and you watch them inhabit it, and you watch them make it real. And so that's more than anything. I mean, my knowledge of the criminal world. I mean, we both are somewhat familiar with the person that role is based upon. He's a real person. Both of those people are based on real people.
Could you say if they really robbed the Gardner Museum?
Are you asking me?
As your attorney,
Are you asking me if I think that this is what happened?
Yes.
I think some of it happened.
Wow,
this way.
really?
Yeah, I
Okay.
really do.
Okay.
Yeah. I won't tell you what, but
I
I
was
do
just
think
going to
some
say,
of
now
it.
we all got to go back and watch it again and again. But you probably had to take on some research. I mean, you need to know, how museums operate, what security guards do, that sort of thing.
Yeah, that's easy. That's,
Really?
the research is the easy part, but it's really coming up with a storyline that is creative, that's much more interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody can take the facts. It's what you do with them. And, this is a movie about a robbery, but the robbery's not in the front. I figured, and also there's another movie out there. There's some other Ocean's 11 version of this robbery that I'm not interested in. Like, our experiment was how little of the heist movie could we have in the foreground and get away with it?
Mm-hmm.
How much can we focus on what was interesting to me, which was the characters and relationships of these people, these unusual, strangely wise but kind of weird people from Boston
Yeah.
that I know so well, and that Paul did, hit out the park with.
I mean, because the film is so much about this relationship, and so much hinges on the chemistry of Marty and Steve, played by Taylor Gray. I'm embarrassed to say I wasn't really familiar with Taylor's work. How did you find him for this role?
There's a movie. Well, the role Paul was cast first. The movie was made for Paul, so we knew that it was going to be Paul from the beginning. In fact, we were supposed to shoot during COVID, and we met in my kitchen, like distance, maybe even with masks on. And Paul said, "Yeah, we're not going to make a movie because these movies are made around kitchen tables.
Yeah.
So, and if we can't do this with other people, let's wait." So we waited. And so Paul we knew from the beginning. And then Taylor, I was looking for somebody who was not quite cool, but with a little help, maybe he could be cool.
Yeah.
But he wasn't someone who was so uncool that he could never be cool. So that's a real narrow
Perfect, yeah.
range. And there weren't a lot of people that showed up. And Taylor actually as a person is cool.
Yeah.
But we made him a little uncool. I messed with him as much as we could, and so did Paul. He got in his head a little bit, which was great. That was what brought that out.
Yeah, I'm curious, was there a chemistry read with him, or was he cast and then you just met and developed that relationship?
Yeah,
You did a
we
chemistry.
met and we developed a relationship. Yeah, because that's we know that's essential. So you do that on purpose, and there's a way to do it. Kind of like charm and seduction. Is a way in our own lives. We made sure we did that to each other. Yeah, and it carries on. We really have become close about it. The work is very kind of intimate, and that's one of the fun things, developing relationships with other actors.
Did you ever see them read together, or did you just cast them separately and know it would work?
I cast them separately and hoped it would work, but it turned out that they have two very different styles, and that works really well for the movie because of that contrast. So it was just fun to watch that happen.
I always wonder what happens if you're cast opposite someone and the chemistry just isn't there for whatever reason. But maybe that's where acting comes
Yeah,
in.
and you know what? It probably would even work in this relationship. That would be the relationship. You would go with that's what it is. It's more of like a root canal, and that's fine too. I mean, that could because this man was essential to doing this job. So for my. But I noticed that I've only seen the movie about 3 times on a big screen like this, and I noticed like Marty is always saying, "Come on, let's get out of here." You know what I mean? He's always getting out of here. He's always on the move. So it's fun to watch a guy always in motion. And the other character this is to Eric's credit. I'm sure subconsciously he did this on purpose. That the other person is kind of like still trying to figure out what's going on that moment and in a crisis of confidence. And the Marty character, "Come on, let's get out of here. Let's have some fun." So it was kind of interesting in that way that they were always diverse in their approach to things.
The tone in this film is so specific because it's a heist film, but it's also a buddy movie. It's a relationship drama. It's a comedy. I'm assuming a lot of that was in the script, but how do you get that tone just right on set? I don't know if you do multiple takes. I don't know if you can do multiple takes with an independent film. And do you find a lot of it in editing?
Yeah, I mean, the 2 of our producers are here, Mark Donadio and Miriam Marcus are here, but they will attest to the fact that no, there's no time or money to fool. You need to know what you want and go for it and get as many takes just for chemistry as possible and trying out different things. But I think I might have lost the train of the thought of the question.
Don't look at
the
me.
tone, perfecting the tone.
The tone. Oh, yes, that's it. My whole life, nobody has, for some reason, realizes when I'm joking and when I'm serious. I don't know why. Really, like, am I joking now? I don't even know.
Well, it's in your movies.
So, so it has that kind of, and I was also playing with these really awkward moments and then release, and then awkwardness and release. And the sound and the music is a lot of that, too. It's just there's silence. There's not a lot of music until the end. It's like sort of like, I said that to the supervisor that, or the composer, that I wanted it to be a story of someone finding their song. And then so let's not have a lot of music in the beginning, and let's just have a scene that's a little quieter. I just like playing with that feeling, that awkwardness, and that's in the tone, I guess.
No, I get that whenever I try to say something really sincerely, people think I'm being sarcastic.
I know.
And it's the worst.
I know.
I'll be like, no, I mean it. I know I sound phony, but I mean it. So I absolutely relate. But you captured that on film, which is not easy to do.
Well, I mean, it's just if people are playing their truth, it's going to work.
Mm-hmm.
You know, sometimes if the language is up here and it's a little elevated and it's a little funny, but they're playing their truth, then it just that's the sweet spot. That works really well for me. It's a problem when people push, when actors are pushing and trying to find the comedy or trying to reach for it, then it becomes silly and it doesn't mean anything anymore, and it's not grounded. So, you know, that's all I was doing, just setting those edges and just little sort of nudges saying, yeah, let's go this way. And then the actors, they're so smart, they pick it up right away. They know exactly what to do with that.
And was there any improvisation on set? Again, I don't know if you have time to improvise when you're making an independent film.
Well, there's a lot of improvisation in general, just in terms of discovering the scene. And so, yeah, there's time for it. There's time. And when we would, you know, and Eric was open to the idea, we'd discuss it and see it quickly in a take. And we would, and when we had it, we knew we were in the right pocket of the scene. So sometimes things came out that we wanted to do, and together, but we did everything together. I mean, Eric mentioned that he gives a runway, and to carry on with that metaphor, yeah, he gives the actors a runway, but he is like air traffic control, you know, which we could use you more of.
Yes, exactly.
Anyway, but he's really like organizing and thinking about these things in a very, very bigger way, larger way of where the destination is and all sorts of stuff. So he was always involved in all of it, even if there was improvisation. He was, you know, part of it.
I always think that necessity is the mother of all invention, and sometimes you can't afford or you don't have the time to do something the way you thought you wanted to, so you have to pivot and come up with an alternate plan, and sometimes it turns out better. Did you have that experience on making this movie?
I mean, this whole thing was a pivot. You know, I mean, there's just not, you can't afford to do anything, so we had to say, all right, well, how are you going to do a period picture with no money? Well, that's what you do. You find a neighborhood in towns that I know and that Paul knows that when you turn the camera 360 degrees, it actually looks like 1990. So there's ways to kind of like, you know, do work with what you have that works just as well as it would have done if you had all the resources in the world.
What did end up being the most challenging part of making this movie for each of you? It could be something emotionally as an actor, a scene that you know you kept coming back to, anything in the writing or the actual execution of the directing.
I mean, this is my first rodeo, so I was just scared stiff. But from day one, you know, the first take, I remember I came up to Paul and Taylor, and they were in the car, and I leaned over, and there was all these people, and I said, guys, and I knew I had to say something. I just said, can you guys not make me look like an asshole in front of all these people? And they knew exactly. They were like, yeah, we got you.
What about for you?
Well, we had a very, very big schedule. I'm used to working with that from working in television, that we had to get a lot done in very little bit of time. Sometimes I was a little bit felt that, wow, if we only have a two-shot in this, like with the, you know, with pulling out the samurai blade, you know, like some scenes were, you know, more elaborate. In our day was loaded with maybe 5 or 6 scenes in one day. So those were challenging. That, you know, it's like, I suppose I could use a sports metaphor. It's like, you know, you don't want to get caught behind the line of scrimmage. You want to at least get some positive yards. So we were trying to get positive yards out of very long days and kind of elaborate time. And so there wasn't. It's more the challenge of trying to do it within the confines of the lack of time and money, and then, you know, but you make that work for you in a way that gives it an immediacy to the work, and as long as you're prepared for that. I mean, I felt very prepared for it, and to bring, you know, Taylor along with it, and everybody, and actually in a strange sense, you bring the entire crew and everyone working along with it. So we all get in the wave, on the same wave, on different surfboards, and we all really then are in a fantastic experience of taking what is given, and instead of like, you know, we know there's complaints and there's not enough time or money and stuff, but when you are able to kind of get everybody and to use that as a positive driving force, that was, you know, really kind of almost enlightening. It almost makes it, if I can say this without being too pompous, it kind of brings it to a level of a kind of art. You know, we all know about abstract expressionism and automatic writing, and you know, it brings it to kind of stream of consciousness kind of stuff, and that's what helps. And I think that's the best of independent cinema.
And you have worked with so many amazing directors in your career. I'm curious, what do you like from a director when you show up to sets?
Oh, you know, I mean, I like the director to be as authentic to his own self and what he needs, and to feel comfortable and trusting to be able to do that with me, so that I can easily do that with him. And it's great that we just make this sort of conscious, almost, you know, contract, really, of like saying, you do your thing and I'll do mine, and we can work. You know, I'm not an extension of you, nor are you my school marm. You know, so it's fine. And that's what is the greatest. And the best directors do that anyway. So they encourage you to, you know, find your own path.
Eric, your whole cast is fantastic, and you seem to have a really good way with actors. I don't know if it came from, you know, being an extra on set all those years ago. Where did you learn to speak to actors, or do you find that you just cast really well?
Yeah, that helped a lot, casting well. That was the one. I had one conversation with Steven Spielberg, and I said, like, that's the one question I had when I was thinking about making this. So it was in my mind, and I ran into him, and I said, so how do you direct actors? That was my question. And he said, I cast well. So it was just like, okay, who is it that we want that cuts against a little bit the grain of what people think, and then just, why are you choosing these people? And then you throw them together, and it's like, you know, the movie will then find its voice. I think there was a specific scene I remember that the movie found its voice. It was like day 2.
Really? Oh, that's good that you found it that early.
Yeah, I realized.
Yeah.
Oh, that it was with Sheridan in the when you went to visit the aunt. We were in this
Yeah,
room.
I think that was the first day.
Yeah, it might have been the first day, the second half of the first day,
Yeah.
and it was like, oh, there's the movie.
Wow.
It appeared to us rather than like
Yeah.
trying to go out and find it.
Yeah, that's very, very reassuring that happened early in the shoot.
Yeah, yeah. You mean it doesn't happen every time?
Sometimes it doesn't happen at all. Sometimes it happens at the very end.
Oh my gosh, that's horrible.
Yeah, it was a fun scene for me too, because you know, I get to be, you know, with aunts who lived in a 3-decker, and you know, could bring I could show a quieter, gentler
Yeah.
side to the guy. So, and very open too about
Yeah.
his love and care for this person. So I love that. That was a good scene to start with.
Well, I want to remind everyone, please spread the word about this film. It's such a special film. And please join us out in the lobby for a reception. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you. Thank you for being a great audience.
Yeah, thank you all for coming. Sorry we didn't have
Yeah,
time to take
thank you so much.
questions, but see you outside. Thank you.